Hello everyone! I hope you're all having a wonderful Sunday, and if not, it's Vassily Ivanchuk to the rescue. This game comes as a suggestion from a subscriber, Nikita Tarashenko. Not so much the game, but the interview with Vassily Ivanchuk held by Tanya Sajdev. The official YouTube channel of the Tradewise Gibraltar Chess Festival published it yesterday, even though Gibraltar Chess Festival finished like 2 weeks ago, but they only published the interview with Vassily Ivanchuk yesterday. So I will put a link to it in the description below. I suggest you check it out. And there's really nothing for me to even analyze here in the video because Vassily Ivanchuk analyzes the game blindfold in his post-game interview. So I definitely recommend you to check it out. The video only has like 1,000 views, and I don't think that's acceptable. An interview with Vassily Ivanchuk should get at least 100,000 views. So I don't think I can get it up that high, but I can definitely help a bit. So do check it out. It's like pure 12 minutes of Chucky madness and joy. So let's see this game. Chucky has the white pieces and he faces Tingjie Lai. I think you remember her. I think I did 2 videos on her from the World Blitz and Rapid Championship. She won 2nd place in the World Rapid Championship for women. So, and it's interesting, Ivanchuk says that for preparation for this game, he decided to play e4 and see what happens. So that was Ivanchuk's preparation for this game, and his opponent plays e6. So here is Vassily Ivanchuk against the French. We have d4, d5, and now not going for knight to c3, as Ivanchuk says this is a bit too aggressive for white. He goes for knight to d2, the Tarrasch variation. We have c5, now knight to f3, c captures on d4, knight captures, and knight to f6. We have e captures on d5, queen captures on d5, and here your knight on d4 is obviously attacked. You have to do something about this. Vassily chooses to go knight 2 to f3, saying that this might not be the best move, but you know, it's solid. And here Ivanchuk suggests something like bishop to c5, but Tingjie Lai goes for bishop to e7. And here we have bishop to d3. And here Ivanchuk says that black can choose a more safer approach or a more aggressive and creative approach. Black could definitely go for something like castles, and a6, and this is very solid for black, but you know, Ivanchuk was very glad to see this. Maybe not at the moment it was played, but after the game he says that he was very happy his opponent decided to play creatively. Here e5 was played, and this creates an extremely complicated position. Your knight is attacked. After your knight moves, e4 is a very big threat, so you do have to definitely do something about this. Ivanchuk goes knight to b5, getting his knight out of the way, and of course you can't push e4 immediately. If you push e4 immediately, then you get knight to c7 check, you lose the queen and the game. So here Tingjie Lai castles. Now of course you think you can go knight to c7 now and maybe fork the queen and the rook. But if you went knight to c7, this would be a very sad day for you, as black could play queen to a5, this comes with check, and you lose the knight on c7. So this would be definitely a terrible day for Ivanchuk. So after castles, Ivanchuk castled as well, and only now comes e4. And it seems Ivanchuk is losing a piece. Not really. Ivanchuk plays knight back to c3, attacking the queen on d5, and now there's also a double attack on the e4 pawn. And Tingjie Lai goes for queen to c6. Unfortunately, you can't go queen to f5 with the idea of still winning a piece, because now you just lose a pawn. After knight captures on e4, knight captures, and now queen to e2, attacking the pinned piece. There's no way to defend the knight. You're losing a piece, and most likely the game. So after knight c3, queen to c6, and here we have knight to d4. Other than this knight to d4 move, Ivanchuk had some very creative ideas. For example, rook to e1. If pawn captures bishop, then rook captures on e7. This would be very good for white. But he said that he was afraid that after rook to e1, black could play bishop to b4. Now pinning the knight on c3. And now Ivanchuk says that he did have a couple of ideas. For example, bishop captures on e4, and now if knight captures, now go knight to d5. With the idea that if black captures the rook, then knight to e7 check, checks the king, of course, and forks the queen. But the problem is black doesn't have to capture the rook immediately. Black can simply play rook to d8, pin this knight, and now black is just winning. And he did have a couple of other ideas, but in the end he gave up on it and decided to go after this queen to c6 to play knight to d4. Attacking the queen, we have queen to b6 now. Now the knight is attacked on d4, and also the bishop is attacked on d3. So here bishop captures on e4. Now the queen is defending the knight on d4. We have rook to d8, pinning the knight, and now bishop to e3. And this is the position that makes this game very interesting. Here, Tingjie played queen captures on b2, and Ivanchuk wasn't very impressed with queen captures on b2. Ivanchuk was really thinking a lot about this position, and he saw some very interesting ideas for black. For example, he thought about knight captures on e4, and after knight captures on e4, not capturing on b2, but rather he thought about the move f5, and he thought if she decided to play this, then he could very well be lost. Because now if you go knight to c3, then f4 and black is winning. Your bishop is trapped here. If you push the bishop back, you lose the knight on d4, simply rook captures on d4. Same happens if you capture the f4 pawn. But then Ivanchuk tried some other ideas. After f5, he considered knight captures on f5. Opening up the attack on the black queen on b6, but this is the variation he shows in the interview. Once again, I do hope you will check out his interview, as it's really amazing. After bishop captures on f5, now bishop captures on b6, rook captures, pawn captures bishop on b6, and now c3. He thought this would be an interesting move, because now if bishop captures on e4, rook e1. Both bishops are under attack. So after rook a4 defending b3 now, the rook has nowhere to go to still be defending the bishop on e4, and after rook a3, now you capture, but after knight to c6, he thought, okay, I'm up 2 pawns, but she does have a knight and the bishop for my rook, and also I have a weak a2 pawn, so he didn't like this position. But then Ivanchuk says that he was very happy when he saw this idea. After f5, he saw that he could actually play knight to d2. And this knight to d2 move is actually the reason why I put this quote above the board. As Vassily Ivanchuk says, the most difficult in chess is to see moves with knight back. So now white is actually perfectly fine. Because now if you push f4, white easily meets this with knight to f5, attacking the bishop on e7. And now the problem is, if you capture on e3, simply knight captures on e7 with check, and if you play bishop to c5, then knight to e7 check again, and you can't capture the knight because you lose the queen on b6. So after king h8, now Ivanchuk would have knight captures on c8, attacking the queen. You have to solve this first, so rook captures knight, and only now bishop captures on f4, and everything is perfectly fine. Ivanchuk is up 2 pawns, winning this game. So, like I said, after this bishop to e3 move, he considered a lot about this knight captures on e4, knight captures on f5, but his opponent didn't go for this. She went for the immediate queen captures on b2, and he says that even better if she decided not to go for that complicated line, she could have she could have played knight captures on e4, knight captures, and only then queen captures on b2. Because now, if she plays queen captures on b2 and Ivanchuk goes queen to d3, which was played in the game, now if she ever decides to capture on e4, now Ivanchuk can actually capture on e4 with the queen and give up his c3 knight for this e7 bishop, which would be definitely good for white. But okay, knight to a6, you do have to start developing, and here comes rook a to b1, attacking the queen. Ivanchuk considered bishop to f3, getting his bishop out of the way, but then if bishop to f3, knight b4 can be kind of annoying, attacking the queen on d3 and also the pawn on c2. You either have to give up a pawn with queen to c4, or you have to play queen to d2, which is really passive. So after knight to a6, we have rook a to b1, attacking the queen, queen a3, and now bishop to f3, getting his bishop out of the way. And here Ivanchuk was thinking about bishop to b4 for black, and he thought that this would be fine, but Tingjie played knight to b4, attacking Ivanchuk's queen, and he was very happy when he saw this move. Now queen to c4, as there is no threat of actually capturing the c2 pawn, and the queen is quite active on c4, and here bishop to d7. And at this moment, when bishop to d7 was played, of course, the material is equal, everything seems fine, and the position is in fact about equal. The problem is, Tingjie has less than 5 minutes on the clock, and Ivanchuk has like an hour and 15, maybe 20 minutes on the clock. So now Ivanchuk said his plan was mostly not to make like a really primitive move, like a terrible blunder, and simply make little threats about 2 or 3 moves. So, he was actually playing against the clock at this point. So we have knight c to b5, attacking the queen, queen to a5, and now bishop to f4. The idea, of course, is bishop to c7, attacking the queen and the rook. So bishop captures on b5, knight captures, and we have knight to d5. Bishop to g3, and now rook a to c8. Queen to b3, we have a6, and now knight to a7. Unfortunately, you can't trap the knight with rook to a8 because your b7 pawn is hanging, so rook to c3, and now queen captures on b7. Here, Ivanchuk grabs a pawn, we have queen to c5, and now comes a4. h6, now comes queen captures on a6, and rook captures on c2. So, after all is said and done, Tingjie is still very low on the clock, and Ivanchuk created a very strong passed a pawn. So knight to b5, we have knight to b4, attacking the queen, queen b7, and now rook to d7, attacking the queen again. Now queen to b8 check, rook blocks, and now queen makes her way all the way to c7, forcing an exchange of queens. Rook to c8, but now queen captures, bishop captures, and now you can see that the queens are off the board. Ivanchuk still has his very strong passed a4 pawn, and this is simply winning for white, especially with a very low time on the clock. Knight to d6, attacking the rook, rook back to f8, and now comes rook to c1, again forcing an exchange of rooks. Rook captures, attacking the bishop on c5, now bishop to b6, trying to stop the passed a pawn. We have h3, and here rook to d8 was played, and in this position Tingjie resigned the game. I don't really have the information, did she resign, or was she maybe so low on the clock that she didn't really find any inspiration to continue playing this game, but either way it's a lost position for for black. Ivanchuk can actually win this game immediately, so it's a pretty good position for you to pause and enjoy it and find the winning move. So I will give it a couple of seconds if you want to check it out. For those of you who were able to solve this very nice position, congratulations, you're an excellent player. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, if you found a5 also leads to a win for white, with the idea that if bishop captures, then you have knight to b7. But there is an even stronger move, rook to b1. Simply attacking the knight, the bishop is behind the knight, and the problem is if you play knight to d5, defending the bishop on b6, then simply bishop captures, knight captures, and rook to b5, attacking the bishop and the knight, and black can't stop both threats. So yeah, that's the game from round 9, Vassily Ivanchuk against Tingjie. I do hope you enjoyed it. Once again, I invite everyone to check out the interview with Vassily Ivanchuk. It's really amazing, one of the best interviews I've ever seen with Vassily Ivanchuk, and do share your comments on that interview as well, as well as the game. So I would like to thank Hobart Chappell, David Goffredo, Matthew Bielo, Anup Verghese, and Gilmore Rowley for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon. Most likely with another game from the 1959 Candidates Tournament. Thank you all, and I'll see you soon.